Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Cloud-Based Mayhem. Well, with the race barely 2 weeks away, I thought we should get somebody on in the race. And I reached out. This is actually several months ago that I reached out to Maxime, but we just recorded this a couple weeks ago. Maxime Pinot, I think, probably gave Chrigel the best run for his money yet of his 6 wins. And certainly an incredibly talented pilot. Got second in the Xperia the year before. He just won the Borns to Fly last week and actually beat Chrigel. So I think if Khrigel's looking over his shoulder at anybody, it's probably going to be Maxime. There is a lot of talent in the race this year. It always gets faster and faster every time, and more teams are more polished, and the depth of talent and skill this year is deeper than it's ever been. So there's certainly others who could give him a big run for his money too, but Maxime's definitely I think the top gunner for first place, and the one Khrigel's going to be most worried about. Not that Chrigel worries about anything, but anyway, so I reached out to Maxime, and it wasn't so much about the X Alps. I reached out to him because I wanted to talk to him about a blog post that he put up that was circulating on Facebook and stuff that came out just about the same time we did the podcast with Mal and Lob that was all about SIV and training and maneuvers and that kind of stuff. And this wasn't in response to that. He happened to put it out about the same time, and it wasn't rebuking anything that Mal and talked about on the show. They both live in Annecy. I'm sure they're friends, but this was basically, yes, SIV training is super important. We should all be doing it, but the reality is very few people can. It's expensive. It's time consuming. A lot of people don't have a place where they can train that's very convenient to where they typically fly, especially those of us here in North America. It's pretty hard to find training, certainly over the water, that you can do SIV training. So yeah, it's expensive. It's tough. It's, the last thing a lot of people want to do when they have their 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks off a year and go travel to fly is spend a week doing maneuvers over and over again. So the write-up that he did, I just thought was really good. And it was about, well, that would be great, but most people can't. So what do we do? How do we still be safe? And it was basically just by making better decisions. Keep your glider open and make better decisions. So, one of my real mentors and a guy I was flying with this weekend, Nate Scales, has been flying for 30 years, he threw his reserve once and then one very minor injury to his wrist, but chased it really, really hard for an awful lot of time, and he's never done any SIV. So I'm not saying that's the way we should approach it. I think SIV is very important, as we talk about a lot on the show, and it's real critical. But it's maybe not for everybody, and some people just can't do it. So this is kind of the response to that. But we also get into how to climb better, how to thermal better. He's already done 2 300K plus flights this year, won a big monster FAI back in late April before Europe's been getting pounded by snow since then. But he's had a couple of huge flights this year. Maxime came up through the French juniors program, which we've talked about quite a bit on the show. Charles Cazot and others that we've had on have come through that program. Very jealous of that over there in France. But an amazing pilot, really fast on the ground. It's going to be fun to race with him. And I'm really looking forward to that. And this is a great show. I think you're going to enjoy that as well. I wouldn't say this is housekeeping, but I have a story for you all I think you'll find entertaining. This weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and actually today looked really epic. The highest bases we've had here in Sun Valley, well over 18,000, and light winds, and things looked pretty good for some big flights. So Saturday, I packed up all my bivy gear and O2 and hiked up one of our kind of lower launches here, Sun Peak, and pinged off and had a really nice flight back over the Backton Trail Creek and top landed back there with some elk, and I just couldn't resist. There's all these elk cruising around, and I top landed and hung out for a bit and then relaunched. And I was kind of approaching Saturday as an X Alps day to just do some top landing and train and go go scout some things that I've been wanting to look at for a while, and had a really nice day. I had a nice afternoon flight, got up really tall and cruised around in the Pios and our beautiful mountains and lots of snow still around. And yeah, it was pretty stunning, really cold, but really stunning. And then landed down in a place called Copper Basin and spent the night in a campground. A couple people actually gave me a ride in their car to the same campground, and had a nice dinner with them, and just a very nice evening, really, really cold. And then the next day, yesterday, Sunday, went up, and it took me a while. It took a couple hours to find a good launch. It was kind of southeast facing. It was maybe just before 11 a.m. and felt really good about the day. Everything looked good. There was a little bit of wind coming over the back that was just kind of katabatic, I think, coming down off the snowy fields above me. But I had good 30 minutes to suss it out as I was getting ready, and kind of double checked everything, and just felt really good to go have a good day. Launched and kind of flew down the ridge a while. There was some little bubbles, but not much. I didn't even turn, and then had a friction knot in my upper cascades on my brakes, and kind of gave it a hard yank, and it just popped the line. But it was just one of the little brake lines off the top cascade, so no big deal. Flown a lot with that, so I wasn't too concerned about that. And took a hard left turn, kind of crossed this little canyon, and the next area was all just sage and totally wide open, a couple trees, all southeast facing. And I thought, okay, well, for sure I'm going to get a climb here. And if I don't, I'll just top land, slope land, and walk up a little bit and relaunch when it's on. And and then I got in some pretty weird sinky air, but moderate, nothing too extreme. I didn't think too much of it just as I was crossing the canyon, and then started feeling a little bit more wonky, and then took a huge hit, not a frontal, just it took a big collapse on the right side of the wing. And at the time I was 38 meters AGL from looking back at the track log. So I was very, very low, barely over 100 feet off the deck. And my instant thought was just reserve immediately. And I identified the handle. I have a front mount. I was flying the Colibri and my Peak 5. And identified the handle and went to throw it, and instantly went into an auto rotation. I kind of looked up right before I went to throw it just to see what was going on. It was one of those hits where you just know it's really bad. And I looked up, and the right side was totally cravated, and it was a big one. And of course, as soon as I looked up and saw that, I started into a pretty radical auto rotation. And because I had just done all this SIV training, more acro training, but I just done 4 days with Dylan Benedetti out in California over the water, and just been doing a ton of stalls out there. I was pretty concerned about throwing the reserve into the wing in an auto rotation. I knew that I had one chance. I knew that I had to get this reserve out and deployed immediately, or I was going to be in bad shape. And so I stalled the flying side, the left side of the wing, pretty much immediately, and was kind of actively piloting in a kind of a deep stall configuration, but I was still rotating slowly, and the next rotation was going to be basically into the mountain. So I tried to just consciously think about keeping my hands low so it wouldn't restart, and hucked, and I hucked it really, really hard. Saw the bag fly off, saw the reserve deploy, looked down, and it was probably 1-2 pound. And I didn't actually even feel the reserve slowing me down. If it's a 100 kg round, and I had all my bivy kits, so I was way over that, and those don't bring you down all that slowly anyway. That's my X-Alps stuff. So would have really liked to have a bigger reserve for sure, and a square for sure. And, looking back, I think when I first took the hit, just instantly, that would have been the place to throw. And like I said, I looked at the handle and I was reaching for it, and then I just didn't like the configuration I was in right after that. But I think if I had just immediately thrown, I would have had probably a much softer landing. As it was, I hit incredibly hard on my left side. And the only thing I thought about as I was going in was, wow, this seems really fast. And keep your arms in so you don't break them, and just kind of tensed up to take the hit. It didn't sound very good when I hit, but luckily it was mostly dirt. My left hip hit a bit of a rock. And so that's just kind of bruised, although I don't really bruise. You can't see the bruise, but I can certainly feel it. And was very thankful that I had a proper first aid kit. I took 800 milligrams of ibuprofen pretty much as soon as I got out of my harness. I laid there for a long time just to let the adrenaline kind of ease off and make sure, okay, feel your toes, do some checks that I could when I was kind of in the harness, kind of balled up. The reserve was just flying over my head because it was pretty thermic and there was some wind coming up the ridge. And so I sat there for quite a long time to just kind of chill out, make sure everything was okay. Crawled out of my harness, sat down for another 5-10 minutes, took 800 milligrams of ibuprofen, knowing there was some pretty solid pain coming. Started to feel pretty good that the back was okay. I was a bit worried about the pelvis because that took the main hit when I landed, but wasn't real sure. And then moving around was pretty tough. So I got out the inReach and messaged quite a few people, my wife and others, a good doctor friend of mine, just to let him know. And he's also search and rescue here. So I thought, okay, well, I'm pretty confident I can self-rescue and walk out of here. It was like 1.5 kilometers to get back to the campground from where I was at that point. I was pretty close to it. So not a big deal there. But I didn't want to carry my gear. I had really heavy pack and I didn't want to deal with that. So did a whole bunch of inReaching for a while, then brought my oxygen back out and started sucking on that just to kind of calm down even more. And then went up and packed the reserve away, packed the wing away, and got in some shade beneath a tree that was pretty nearby, and just waited for the posse to show up. And so huge thanks to Nate and Farmer and Willie and Brian for rallying together and coming out and hiking with me and hiking my stuff out. And then I went immediately to the hospital a couple hours later because we were on the other side of the Pioneers, which here in Sun Valley is quite a long ways away from town, and went into the hospital. And just to be safe, they gave me a CAT scan, and I don't have a scratch on me. I'm super bruised and very, very sore. And today has been kind of hard getting around, but all in all, everything went as good as you can possibly hope. And I just wanted to share the takeaways. I think, at least for me, I think there's 3 things that really helped the outcome. One, all the training I've been doing, certainly that helps with the durability and helps you be able to bounce and take hard hits like that and hopefully get lucky as I did. And the second was having the inReach, after the pound. There's no cell service out there. That just changed my world. I would have been totally in a self-rescue situation. I guess I could hit the SOS, but it meant I could talk to my doctor, my friend who's a doctor, and I could talk to my wife and through messaging, obviously, and then rally the crew and give them my lat and long and position, all that stuff. So that was really terrific to have that. And yeah, having the oxygen certainly helped. That helped ease things. So I guess this is 4 things. And the 4th thing is the SIV training. I've done a ton of it over the years and tons of stalls and stuff. This was really an acro course that I just did with Dylan Benedetti, and he's actually who I interview, and he'll be in the next show in a couple weeks, just as the race starts, the next one that comes out. But that was really terrific. And I'd like to think I would have done the same things before this training, but it certainly helped me really understand what was going on from A to Z, the whole thing, just the height awareness, the time awareness, the situation that the wing was in, what it would take to fix it, then knowing I didn't have enough time to do that, and just reacting, I think, for the most part, pretty much the right way. There's obviously more to every accident like this that happens before the incident. I've thought a lot about, what was my headspace in before launch? It was 4 minutes from launch to hitting the deck. I feel pretty confident that, I wasn't tired. I was feeling really good. I was really psyched about the day. I didn't see any red flags in the sky or the wind or what was happening, and pretty reasonable terrain. It was certainly, I think, well within my skill level. I think I got a combination of kind of katabatic winds and a real ripper, and was just very low. So wrong place at the wrong time. I will keep thinking about that. If I come up with something else, then I'll bring it up. But yeah, just wanted to share that. Pretty wild day, pretty short, intense flight. I've never had a 4-minute flight that ended like that, but it all worked out. So yeah, one more coin comes out of the luck jar. Let's get into it. Let's enjoy this wonderful talk with a friend of mine, an incredible pilot, and someone you'll be watching a lot here very shortly in the X-Alps, Maxime Pinot. Maxime, it's a real treat to talk to you. I've been following your incredible flights that have made me really jealous. We haven't had weather like that over here this year, but you guys got that magic last week in April that seems to be the thing the last few years. So congratulations on a couple 300s. You had that wicked one out over the flats, and then a big, huge FAI that must have been quite thrilling. I saw your videos and pictures. Beautiful. It's that time of year when you got all the snow in the mountains, and so congratulations there, and thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Hello.
That looked really fun. I thought, Maxime, what might be kind of a fun place to start is just to talk a little bit about the race coming up. We've all been yo-yoed all over the place the last kind of month and a half with, okay, is it going to get delayed? Is it going to get canceled till next year? I don't know about you, but I have found that quite hard to adapt to with all these unknowns. How has your training been going, and how has that been affecting you and your team?
Yeah, it was a very strange year. Yeah, it was very difficult, mostly during the winter, because we knew that it would be tricky still with the COVID situation. And it was very difficult this year when you had maybe a little less motivations because of being tired or something like this. It was sometimes difficult to push more. And maybe it was even more important to have the team behind you, because not knowing what will happen it's really difficult for a long preparation like the X-Alps.
Yeah, I have found the same. Do you have the same team as you did in 2019, or is it new?
Yeah, exactly the same. So I'm really lucky with this, because everybody looks really happy with the race again, and they know what to do. So it's comfortable.
And what do you think about the route? You're there in Annecy. You and I had a little quick discussion that we'd heard through the grapevine before we before we knew the course, or at least before I knew anything about the course, that it was going to be a big change. I didn't anticipate this. I just thought, maybe a different main waypoint instead of Mont Blanc or something. But what do you think about the course?
Actually, I was a bit like, yeah, I didn't know what to think about it before we knew the course, because it's, yeah, and the thrill is also to go to Monaco. But finally, I quite like it quite a lot. I think it's quite interesting, and I'm happy because to have done it in 2019. Because if it was my first time, I would have been quite disappointed, I think.
Yeah, I have no love for Monaco, so I was pretty
Yeah.
thrilled to. I know that's not a very sustainable attitude. You want to get there, but in 2015 I got there and I wasn't very impressed. It's awful hot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of concrete down there, so I quite like that they're keeping us in the Alps. I think it's going to be really fun. Really, I think it could be very hard if we don't get good flying weather. It'd be tough, but it's at least it stays in beautiful places the whole time.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, Monaco is not not the best place. So yeah, for sure, on this side, it's way nicer, and I really like it also. And but just yeah, I think just the starting in Austria and finishing just right on the sea was nice. But for sure,
Sure.
it's a new thing, and yeah, it's exciting also. So I have no problem with the new routes. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, cool. Maxime, we did this little, I reached out to a bunch of the athletes and teams right after the last race, and you and I had a nice chat about that. And I believe I asked you this question because I kind of asked the same questions with everybody, but I'd like to ask it again after, you've had almost 2 years now of pondering and thinking and coming back to the race. You were certainly You gave Chrigel a hell of a run there in the last one, and coming in as a rookie, and you've done really well in the X Peer, and you're certainly one of the main favorites going into this one. I'm just wondering, after you've had more time to think about it, what has changed, if anything, in your run up to this race in terms of physical training or scouting, or any of the things you've learned, or maybe the technology, what, in terms of apps you're using, or what has changed for Team France this time around?
Yeah, quite a lot actually, because on the physical side, I really dig different things. Like I have a new trainer, but yeah, I kept training during the two last years quite a lot. So yeah, not to lose anything from what we did, and also because I know that I'm quite young in the endurance sports. So giving 2 more years is a lot finally. So and in the details, I've done quite the same preparation during the autumn, with a lot of volume but quite low intensities, just to build a good base.
Mm.
But then it was quite different, because I decided to find a new trainer, and I was quite training on my own during autumn, and then I just met with Matteo Jacquemot. Maybe you know him. He's
Mm.
like 4 times the world champion in ski mountaineering,
Sure.
and he gave me a good contact with another trainer, and we have really good relationship now. With his name is Emilio, and yeah, we changed quite a lot the preparation. During the winter we had quite a lot of intensities also. I'm doing quite a lot of exercise skiing, so it's one of the thing I'm doing a lot during the winter, which is very good for the shape.
Mm.
And then we went back more on volume during February and March, and during April I really we spoke a lot about it, because I wanted quite a lot of time to fly, because I know how much it's important in the preparation. So we went back to intensities, so I had more time to fly.
Mm.
And now the last leg is yeah, we have two more weeks of quite high volumes of training, and then it will be mostly tapering. Yeah.
And do you spend quite a bit of time in the gym? Do you do much strength training as well?
I don't do so much. I do, yeah, maybe mostly core training, and also specific training for the legs on the arm trainer. So on my bike. So
Mm.
with low repetition but high strength. So it's the main things I'm doing on the strength side, because I must say that I don't like it so much to be at the gym. So yeah, I'm doing probably the minimum, but on the other hand, I'm quite a lot outside, and it's what I like.
Maxime, speak to me a bit about how you approach the race in terms of goals. I had a quite interesting I've had quite an interesting few years thinking a lot about flow, and you do a lot of comp flying. I know you were all geared up for the Worlds, which got canceled in May. I was hoping to fly with you there, but in 2015 things went pretty well for us, and I thought, going into 2015, I really had no idea if I would just be eliminated right off the bat. I just had no idea where I would sit. I hadn't done I'd done a lot of hike and fly and a lot of Volbib, but I'd never done anything like the X Alps. And I wasn't, quote
Mm.
unquote, an endurance athlete of any kind. So I really had no idea, and things went pretty well. And so I really went into 2017 more with, too much finishing goals.
Mm-hmm.
I want to place here, and I, in a sense, didn't put enough weight on the process. I still trained really hard, but I think I put too much pressure on
Mm.
myself. And then in the race, made a couple very bad early mistakes that were all flying related. And it really, as often happens in the race, the weather gets you in the back of the pack, and that was it. And so working with Thomas Therlo, Chrigel's supporter, I've
Yeah.
learned to change the goals and change the process and think differently about things. But I'm wondering how I'm trying to get to mindset with you. How do you where do you want to be mentally on June 20th? How are you going to approach each day?
Yeah, when I'm looking back to my best performances, most of the time there is a kind of yeah, I would say like I'm quite distant from the goal. I feel that I'm prepared because the preparation is the key for sure. So I give everything in the preparation. I'm focused, but I like when the event is coming to be quite distant from it. It's a bit strange, but if I'm fully focused on it, for sure I will just do bad. it's quite strange, but if I'm obsessed with it every day and just until the race, it's not working for me. It's because I have a most of the time I can put a lot of pressure on myself. So I prefer to know that I'm doing a good preparation, but try to just to enjoy the preparation, but don't think about the results. Yeah, because if I do so, for sure it's bad.
And Maxime, what does your preparation look like in terms of the course? You posted something quite a while back where you were kind of studying the valleys and the flow and the valley winds and that's this kind of thing. I had an interesting talk sitting next to Chrigel in 2015, right before that race started, where I said, "Hey, I'd been over in Europe for a month and a half, almost 2 months actually, before the race started, scouting and learning the course and going around. And I was surprised to hear him say that he doesn't scout at all. He doesn't like to have a preconceived notion of, now I don't know, I'm talking about in-person scouting. I don't know what he does in terms of Google Earth and routes and skyways and X contest and all that kind of thing. But he didn't like to go 3 weeks before the race and look at one of the turn points, for example, because it's very different weather. There's more snow. It's not what he's going to see on the actual day. And he doesn't want to have any preconceived notions about how to get through an area. He wants to do it on the day that it happens and fly that weather, which I thought was pretty interesting. What's been your approach to scouting and learning the course?
Yeah, I don't go scouting for sure.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, nothing. Last in 2019, it was the same. And I think I'm really more efficient just walking on the maps on Google Earth and everything, just thinking about all options. Yeah, just we're trying with my imagination and talking with Jeremy what we can do and take different scenarios, and we are very much efficient like this. And I don't see the point to go in person on the places because it's a lot of you lose a lot of time for me in the preparation because it costs also a lot some money if you go for 1 week. And as you said, like in 2019 now, maybe this year there is even more snow, so it's a complete loss of time for me. So yeah, I don't go scouting for sure. Yeah,
Interesting.
But
Okay.
I spend quite a lot of time on the maps. Like I would say at least 2 hours a day, and just being really like close from the race, like really friendly with it, I would say, or I don't know the word, but
Intimate.
just intimate with the race and just try to think all the options. Yeah.
Will you have and I'm sorry, I have to just, I'm so fascinated with the race. We're going to switch topics here in a bit, but just a few more about the X Alps. Do you have, if you're say at the Hahnenkamm turn point or any of it, doesn't matter, and you're going to the next one, would you have potential routes already preloaded into your phone? It's just to give you reminders when you're in the air, or are you just flying the sky just to the next waypoint? You don't have any of that in your phone.
Yeah, I will. I'm really working hard and creating files so I can use them in the air. Yeah, with the all options, but also like some trails and some takeoff. Every takeoff we can find, so it's on my phone already, and it allows me to take really faster decisions in the air. So yeah, I like to do it before, and because you can improvise really well when there is a lot of preparation behind. And
Sure,
because
sure.
if you are in the sky and just thinking about in terms of condition, for sure at one moment it will not be enough.
Do you have a weather team? I know a dedicated weather person, sitting behind a computer feeding you information.
We are working on it. Last year it was like you, it was Laurent Valbert
Yep.
was working with us, and we are still wondering what we will do this year. We don't know yet, because it's cool sometimes to delegate some work, but sometimes it's very cool also to do it yourself, because so yeah, I'm still at the moment the weather. I have one or two people in mind, and but I'm not sure at the moment what I will do. Yeah.
Yeah. Ditto. Cool. Well, switching gears here a little bit, Maxime. I don't know, the timing of this was kind of interesting, and I'm not even sure you're aware of it, but we did a podcast several months back with Malin Lobb, who lives there in the same zone as you do. He's an instructor for FlyO, and you circulated a blog post kind of thing that came out about the same time, and it wasn't refuting at all anything that Malin had said. The advice we heard from Malin was all terrific, but it was kind of in a sense the other end of the spectrum, which was, yeah, it would be terrific, and if I'm not paraphrasing this right, correct me, but it would be terrific if all of us had the money and the time and the ability to do a ton of training, a ton of SIV training and training over the water and learning everything that Malin talked about that's can be so important. But the reality is very, very few actually do, unless you're on the French team and you have plenty of time and money and this is kind of your job. That's just not the reality for the great majority of pilots in the world. And so you were saying, the emphasis should be on just better decision making and keeping your wing open. Can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm also an instructor, so I have a pretty good idea how much time people have with flying and how much money also they can spend for it. So when I saw like articles just about you just have to do acro and do cross country and you do I can fly and everything, it's not the reality as you said. So yeah, for sure I think we have to be more practical with people, and for sure SIV is a very good tool, and that's not the question. But I've learned like that then during the years that the volume of flying is very, very important in quite different conditions, and it gives the pilots like a good feeling with the air, and that's way more important in my opinion, because learning, I think when you are able to say, okay, this place, it can be tricky, it can be turbulent, before you just actually get there, you are already in a mode that you are activated, you are like ready to fight if it's not good enough in the zone. So and you are already in the mode like, if I took a collapse, it's because of this or it's because of that. Yeah, it's more important to be really comfortable in the air and to to think about the places you will get in. It's the only thing, and just would it be turbulent or not, and I'm ready to fight if it's not a good place. But just to the analyzing of the condition is the most important for me.
Do you have any kind of tricks or strategies for dealing with irrational fear? And what I mean by that is, we have this fight or flight response for many people that, when you get in a tense situation, uh, many people just can freeze up or
Yeah.
get really scared, and we all experience fear. And certainly in the X Alps, we're usually, although last year was quite mellow for most, but
Mm.
usually we're dealing with a lot of wind, and we can, like you say, we can get ourselves in spots that are pretty tense. Do you have anything you specifically do for dealing with those moments?
Yeah, for sure. One of the most important for me is the volume of flying. When I'm not flying enough, and it was maybe the case before the experience in 2018, I was really bad in the air. Maybe, yeah, I was feeling very, very bad because I didn't flew enough during spring. So at the beginning of the of spring condition, I'm flying quite a lot. Like in April, like I flew like 70 or 80 hours this year.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's quite a lot for me, and that's really a base for me. It's like building endurance. It's when you are running, if you don't run enough, for sure you will not last during long runs. It's the same in flying. So you have to sometimes go flying, even if you will not do 200k, 300k. Just go flying, because the 2 or 3 hours you will do, it will count in your volume, and at the end, for sure, it will make a big difference.
Yeah, for sure,
And
for sure. This is a hard thing, I think, for many people to explain, but talk about gliding. You put out a great video on thermaling recently that was terrific, but I find that teaching someone to glide is tricky. It's so instinctual. But what are you thinking about when you're take me through the three parts of kind of flying: that thermaling, gliding, and planning. Take me through how you kind of approach each of those aspects.
yeah, the thermaling, it's also quite for me. It's really related to volume, because thermaling must be really like really not automatical in the end, because it's the moment where you plan what you will do next. So I see really a big difference for myself at the beginning of the season and middle of the season. I can thermal without thinking in the middle of the season, and at the beginning I'm just wondering where is the core and everything. So I just need a good volume to be really comfortable in thermal. And one of the things which is very important thermaling is to have the eyes everywhere. So I think to find the right clue for your positioning is really important. And for sure, the most important then is to have a plan before you get to cloud base or to the top of the thermal. Because if you just hit the cloud base before just you made your plan, you are really late.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm trying to collect the information when I'm climbing. So I'm collecting the information. For me is the altitude uh, of um of every layer. So I try to make like a sounding of the air mass when I'm thermaling. At which layer it's better, which layer is quite is less good, and also the wind and the inversions and everything. I try to have as many parameters as I can, and then I can do a plan before I hit cloud base. And then the gliding mode is, of course, there is a part where you plan in thermal. So you will go, you try to draw the line between you and and your goal or the next thermal, and you try to find the right placement regarding the wind, the clouds, and everything. Because if you just go straight, most of the time that's not the most efficient, even if it can work very well, but it's not always the more efficient. And after, there is also in the gliding, there is something really important is to be relaxed, because most of the people, they are just a bit fighting with the wing, and they are not completely relaxed in the harness. And most of the time, the pilot gliding the best are very relaxed. They can let the wing just fly, and it makes really huge differences in the end. Also, choosing the right speed is also very important.
Using your speed bar correctly.
Yeah, using the speed bar correctly, also to control the pitch, but also just having the right speed. I know myself, I'm sometimes a bit I go a bit too fast most of the time, so I try to work on it, because after I'm showing the thermals to the others. So so I try to also to find the right balance. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, having the right speed is quite important. Yeah.
I wasn't planning on asking you this, but because you talked about speed, I did a podcast recently with Robbie Whittle, and as we were nearing the end, actually, I'm not even sure this was in the show. It was just he and I were having a chat, and he said, you know why Chrigel's getting you guys, right?" And I said, "Well, yeah, for all the reasons, Robbie. What do you mean?" there's a lot of reasons there, and he said, "No, when it's on, he's cracking. He's really flying fast when it's that kind of a day. I mean, you of anybody knows how to fly really fast, but I have found it incredibly hard in a race like the X Alps to not be somewhat conservative, even when I know you shouldn't be. If there are days where you don't have to be that conservative, but the penalty for bombing out in the X Alps is quite a bit higher than a comp or something where, really it just doesn't matter that much. I mean, you're not going to get the score, but comps come and go, whereas the X Alps is something we work so hard at. Do you have, I don't know, have you thought about that? Is that something you've changed in terms of training or your mental approach coming into this one?
Yeah, actually, I quite like the condition when it's quite bombing and the sky is when you have quite a lot of cumulus. I quite like it, because it's what I do quite a lot, and flying fast, you can learn it only in World Cup competitions. And what I'm saying to the people who want to be performant in I Can Fly is to do quite a lot of comps, because for sure you learn a lot from the best. And what you learn in World Cup for sure is a big advantage for the I Can Fly races. It's very, very important. So I have no big deal with flying fast, because it's what I like to do. So most of the time, my problem is to fly quite slow when it needs
slow
to
down.
be. Yeah, slow down. And it depends on the pilots, because I would say most of the cross-country pilots who are only doing cross-country, they are really like, they will not land for sure. But yeah, if they fly like 20 average, and with the XAT wing flying 25, 27 average is already good per hour, is already good. But it's a big difference at the end of the day. So for sure, if it's bombing and you don't take advantage of this, in like 3 hours you are 20k behind. So it's not big deal for me, this, but it's the opposite way, which is more difficult.
It's a good problem to have, I think.
Yeah.
You had some big flights this spring. I think it would be wonderful for the audience to hear how you plan. So before takeoff, rewind us back to what, because the last time we were going to try to do this talk, you said, yes, I could do it in the next 3 days, but one of these days I think is going to be a 300. And then sure enough, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, you did that. So you obviously saw that coming. That was Friday. It was several days before, I think.
Mm.
And but I think it would be great for the listener and go into detail. What websites, what forecasting tools, what are you using to identify the day and then the launch and then execution? Take us kind of through that program.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a long-term work because the weather forecast is like, it's always difficult. And now I know my place around quite well. So when I see a situation, a weather situation coming, I can already say maybe there is something can happen now. So I will be more focused on the forecast. And I'm using like three or four websites like Meteo Blue and Velivol and some other, like Soaring Meteo is also I'm using. But I would say then that the most difficult sometimes is that most of the time this day is like the perfect day is in between one or two other days, and you have to choose the best one. Okay, you can give a chance to all of them, but it's difficult in terms of time and also of because sometimes if you fly 10 hours but it wasn't good enough, you are a bit tired, so next day it's a bit more difficult. But yeah, after it's to choose the right day, and most of the time it's the first day of this period, which is the best. And so we gave it a try. Yeah, it was Friday, and it was the good decision in the end. But for sure, we had a lot of failure before. Like I remember one day last year, we saw like two very good days coming, and the first day we decided to just trim the wing for the second day, and the second day was shit, and the first day was just bombing. so so yeah, the weather forecast is always difficult, and I'm speaking a lot with Jonathan Marin, because he's always in the good plans also, the good cross country plans, and he's a really good pilot. And yeah, sometimes we can speak like 2 or 3 hours the day before. We are quite crazy with this. So yeah.
In terms of just planning the route and deciding on the launch and where you'll go and what you'll do. Yeah.
We made last year. We made 300 out and return, and I remember I spent like my whole day on this flight. So yeah, it's kind of work. Yeah, sure.
Well, I've had both success and failure in that regard in a couple different ways. Where last summer I had a flight where I really had to get back to the truck because it was a very remote part of Utah and in Idaho. Hardly any roads and no one on them, so retrieve would have been impossible. I didn't have anybody to drive retrieve, and so I designed an FAI that got me back to the truck. That at times I would have been way over a 24-hour walk to get back, and it all worked out, and those times are brilliant. But other times I've had when I put so much planning into something, and okay, this is the triangle I'm going to fly, and then that's not the day I'm given, it can take my brain a while to switch to flying the day and not my desire, which is a saying I got from Nick Reese many years ago. Talk to me about adapting and changing the idea. Was this FAI that you guys did? Was it basically what you mapped out? Was it? Did it go down as planned? Okay.
Yeah, this one was really mapped because it was also for the FIA record. So this one was mapped, maybe, but we just go through all the turn points we planned, but we went also a bit further because the conditions were really bad, really good. So yeah, we just took advantage I think, totally of the day. But yeah, we go through all the waypoints. But when it's not about a record, I always do a plan, even if it's not big cross country flying. I'm always doing a plan for the day, because I don't like to be in the air and have no plans. Of course, sometimes for different flights when you go flying with friends or anything, but most of the time I'm always having a goal, just a technical goal or a route goal or anything, but I don't like to go flying without planning something. So I have it depends on the condition, but when it's quite good condition like this, I like to stick to the plan as much as possible. But of course, in the air, if at one moment it's not possible, I'm switching. But also having this goal in the head, it's giving sometimes you an extra like motivations, and you can overpass some difficulties, and it's a very good training also. Yeah, because for sure you can't plan anything, but if you try to stick to the plan, also it can bring you really high motivation. So it depends always, but I like to do plans.
The flight you did out over the flats, when I looked at the track log from that, you were really low most of the time. Was that kind of a go to no flight, or was that also planned? As it seemed kind of low odds, but you made it work. But was that something you also planned, or was that, hey, I think we could make this work, let's go out there and just see what happens?
Yeah, I think just this day the thermal were quite far from one another, so it was just between the thermals. It was like maybe 10K or more in the glide. So I was always going quite. I was getting low always. So
It's low save, low save, low
yeah,
save.
low save always. And at the beginning it was very tricky, because also it was quite humid at the beginning, and then it improved quite a lot in the end. But also at one moment there was an airspace during like 60 or 70K. I couldn't climb over 1,300 meters, and the cloud base was 1,900. So for sure it was big deal. And behind me with the radio, and they can, I think Stefan and Jonathan, they can call the airport, the little airport, and they give them the clearance just after me.
Nice. Oh, it's good to have those friends that you fly with.
But maybe they were flying like 40 to 1 hour behind me, so I nearly when I knew there was no problem with the airspace, I was already 10K before the end of the airspace, so it was a bit late for me. But I actually, it's one of my strengths to find the thermals quite low. I know I'm quite good at it, so I'm not very stressed in these situations.
Can you dive into that a little bit more? What are you thinking when you're starting to get low? How have you found success with low saves? With what kind of mind frame do you get in? What are you doing technique wise that helps that?
Actually, I'm a lot working with the clouds, of course, and I'm always heading in the direction of the best place regarding the clouds. And after, I'm working a lot with the flow, so how the air will flow in this place. So in the flatlands, I know that I'm very much looking the forest and the lee side of the forest. I'm really working a lot with this, and I'm quite confident in this. So confident enough. But I would say that it's a lot of perspective before. I try to have different plans for sure, and but I'm really thinking a lot about the wind and the clouds. Not
Mm.
much with the color of the fields or anything, but very much with the wind and clouds for sure.
So trying to pick up on cloud streets and what's happening down course line well in advance, and
Yeah.
constantly kind of moving that way towards hopefully a more successful line.
Mm. Yeah, and some pilots they say, okay, when I'm really low, I'm not looking the clouds anymore, and I think it's a big mistake. And
Hmm.
I'm always having an eye on them, so I know that I'm at least looking in the right zone.
Yeah. I love that. That's great. What's something, a skill or just something you've learned from another sport? Because I know you
Mm.
do a lot of touring and a lot of cross country, and I'm sure biking, all kinds of other stuff. But what have you learned from something else other than flying that's helped you become a better pilot?
Yeah, for sure, a lot. I think I'm a big fan of sports, and in paragliding, we don't have so much the physical pain, but we have the mental pain, and
Uh-huh.
uh, and I think to have sports, just other sport that combine both, it's also very interesting because you manage different things. And but sometimes I really think paragliding is a bitch with this with the mental pain, because it's like very, it's something very very, like, you don't find it anywhere else.
I agree.
It's Yeah, I don't know how to explain to people who don't fly, because sometimes they think, okay, you are just sitting in a harness and you take decisions and blah blah blah. But that's kind of when I'm flying 10 hours or 11 hours, like the day Friday to 2 weeks ago, or the 300K. The day after, I was like, I just slept, and yeah. So yeah, it's to have sometimes in sports like different issues. You are more adaptable. But I'm a really big fan of certain sport like biathlon. Sports that connect two activities. Like in biathlon, they connect shooting and skiing, cross country skiing,
Mm.
and I think we can find a lot of, yeah, connection with them, because they are like trying to connect two things that are completely different, as we are doing also in I Can Fly. We are connecting endurance training or endurance sports with flying, and it requires really different, yeah, kind of skills. So it's quite, yeah, it's very, yeah, my inspiration is from this kind of sports most of the time. And I was looking, yeah, during the winter, I was looking how they were training. So how much time they spent training for the shooting, how much time they were training with the skiing, and uh, and the balance is quite interesting.
One of the most valuable pieces of information I got was from Tom Payne. I went and sat down with him. He did the race in 2009 and then
Mm,
supported John Chambers in 11 and 13. And he told me that, your group needs to have kind of a crisis management program, or a conflict resolution program. And it was valuable in that it was fun to think about. And our resolution was just, okay, we identify the mistake, talk about it, let it go, and laugh. Just
mm,
the race has to be fun. It's not worth it if it's
yeah.
not fun. So let's have fun with this. And then this ties into one of my talks I had with Thomas Thurlow this winter in the kind of preparation is, he said, think about, at some point in the race you're going to make a mistake,
Mm,
and imagine in the past one of those mistakes, say you bomb out in the middle of the day and now you've got to hustle to get back up to launch, and you're stressing because other pilots are in the air and they're leaving you behind. you need to have a plan for that. You need to have you need to make it a game. You need to consider, okay, how is this an advantage? How is this an opportunity right now? And it's been interesting to think about that. I'm wondering if you've thought about that, or when you think back to the last race, when you've made a mistake, what's your mental approach to that going into this one? And also just normal flying as well. Say on the 300 day, if you had bombed out and your friends made it happen, how do you approach that?
Yeah. I've done quite a lot of mental training since 2019 with a friend of mine. But for during the 2019 race, it was still difficult sometimes to get back from some mistakes, or sometimes I would say different timings, because sometimes timing in the XAP is really difficult.
Everything.
I remember when you are 40 minutes behind Chrigel, and then you catch the thunderstorms, and is away. You have one day behind after this little timing difference. So this moment were really tricky, but also during I'm quite lucky to have 4 of my best friends in the team. So they know me really well, and sometimes when I'm not happy and I'm being a bit annoying, they know how to handle me. So it was still working, even if I was not very comfortable with this moment. But we can't be completely comfortable with them for sure. But I learned quite a lot since then, because we worked quite a lot on managing the emotions, because I can be quite emotional, and I work quite a lot on this.
I was going to ask you, how in what way, when you say you're quite emotional, is that just you're up and down? You get pissed off and kick your helmet, or what kind of emotion do you mean?
Yeah, it can be that. A few of my helmets have some scratch on them, but it's. I would say that in this situation, you just start focusing only on the mistake, and the idea is to accept it quite fast, and just to be able to look around, because most of the time you just keep looking at it and you don't see the opportunities around. So in this situation, managing, okay, you are angry, but you can manage it. You don't go completely mad. It's okay to go angry, but you don't have to go completely mad, and still be enough focus on what you have to do to find the opportunities around. And that was quite difficult, and it was one of my problems during the competition, because what is quite interesting in the competition, normal competition, is that it's long competition, because most of the time it's 1 week. And in this week, sometimes you do a bomb out, and it was very, very difficult for me when I was bombing out the next day to be again in a good mood and to fly well. So it was a big work I had to do.
Can you give us any specifics of how you started figuring that out and were able to kind of turn the corner? Because I've had comps that have not gone that way. Goes good, goes bad, can't get back to good.
Yeah.
Just, almost like falls apart. Just put more and more pressure and more pissed off, and I've been able to recover it too, but I'm not sure I can point to anything specific that helped.
So I think it's quite personal for people, but me on my side, we worked quite a lot on some auto hypnosis. I think we do this. We say this.
Yeah.
So we try to take some good moments, and we try to make them appear in these difficult situations. and because there is different plans, because it depends on the situation. But yeah, there is this way to do it when something is going a bit bad in the air. For sure, you try to change the emotion with this. And also when you are back to the ground, when you have a moment when you can relax, we also worked on just letting the emotion flow, and then you can just accept it, and you go, you keep going after. And because when you don't accept some emotions, sometimes they just stick in you, and it's not good. So it was a big work we did, on the Polish Open last year, because I had kind of a difficult situation before, personal situation, and I talked with her name is Natasha, so I talk a lot with her how to manage it, and I was really happy that the 6-week comps went really well, because we just together we succeeded to just, okay, there is something bad, but you can let the emotion flow, and then in the air, you, with the little tricks, you can trick a bit your mind, and it will get better. So yeah, it's kind of very interesting.
Do you use much visualization in your preparation or in your lead up? I mean, in other words, when you think about this year's race, do you imagine flying off the Geisberg and heading south to Wagrain and imagining the thermals? Do you do any of that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it's quite natural. Sometimes you're just thinking about the race, and yeah, start to imagine things. And I think it's very important for the motivation, because if you don't dream about it, I would say maybe it's not worth it. So yeah, it's kind of this kind of dream, like it's strange things, but for me it's very good situation, and I'm sure like my heartbeat is increasing when I think about it, and I think it's a good motivation, because if you don't have these vibes, it's kind of strange. Sometimes maybe the goal is not what you are looking for.
Yeah, and there's been quite a bit of recent data. They've studied this, and it seems that the brain isn't very good at differentiating between the two. And dreaming is the same as reality to the brain, and so if you actively dream, it's you're actually learning.
I read a study about this, about the piano. Yeah, it was very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Very interesting. And they did one of the books I read lately on sports psychology was there were a lot of interviews with Olympic athletes who, for whatever reason, got hurt or sustained some kind of injury when at a time period where you don't want to get hurt. It's a very physical, something very physical, and then but they just replaced the physical training with visualization and didn't lose anything. They were
that's
and
true,
sometimes they had the best results they ever had, was just and they replaced the training with visualization. Pretty fascinating.
But there is some example of this, that people coming back stronger after some injuries. Like I think about Kylian Jornet, because he was injured during the Piemonte like 2 years ago, something like this, and he came back really fast and stronger. So yeah, I think we sometimes we don't take enough consideration. We don't take enough into consideration the recovery, and when you are pushing always your body, sometimes the recovery is the main key.
Yeah, I think rest and recovery is radically important for all of us, especially during this phase.
This is maybe the main things I learned this year, because like maybe end of January I was feeling very tired, and with my coach we decided to cut like during 12 or 13 days. I think it was very long, and after before it, all the intensities is what it was only pain, and I said to him, okay, something is wrong, something is very wrong. So we decided to cut, and then after we went back, and I was feeling way stronger. So yeah, it relaxed me with the idea to rest now, because I know that it allows you to step up.
Yes. Yeah, that's been our approach as well. As you can go really hard to get to another level, but then you've got to let your body,
Mhm.
especially, I'm older than you, buddy. It's, you gotta let it recover. Or it's just, I went through the same thing this winter where it was just, I'm used to being sore all the time, but this was just, my trainer is Ben. He's one of my supporters in the race. You met him last time,
Mhm.
but I just said, Ben, I'm exhausted all the time.
Mhm.
Getting the work done, but without a smile. And that, you want to be
Yeah.
smiling. But on the calorie front, when I did a podcast with Maxime Bellaman, he surprised me with his research showed that we can burn as much as 4 to 5,000 calories in a 4 or 5 hour flight. So you're burning a lot of juice with your brain. When
Mhm.
you did these 300s and you're in the air 10, 11 hours, how do you prepare for that side of it? What have you got on board for food? How do you approach your food and water intake, both before you do the flight and during the flight?
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult for me, this side, because I'm so focused in the air that I can just like forgot to drink, to eat. So in this kind of flights, yeah, I just try sometimes to, and also because you are flying really fast most of the time. So it was kind of difficult, but I know that I didn't eat enough for sure, because I eat like 3 or 4 like bar during the flight, and but for and yeah, I have some energy drink in my camelback, but that's not enough, and it's very also my coach is not flying, and sometimes it's difficult. No, it's not difficult because he understands, but it's difficult to speak with him about the fatigue of a flight, because it's very very like unusual to another sport. It's something different. It's much more about mental fatigue, sure.
Mm, mm.
And yeah, so I don't have any lot of advice on this side, because most of the time I'm forgetting to eat. So,
It could be hard when you got the throttle to the max and every glide you're using a ton of bar. It's pretty hard to grab a sandwich and have a bite to eat. At least
yeah.
at least for me, I don't have that move very well. But um, Maxime, you're an instructor, and I know you do your tandem pilot as well. Take us to the beginning. What do you impress on your students? What should they avoid? What should they focus on when they're just learning?
Um, they have to focus on their motivation, because everybody is not looking for the same thing. So the most important to be in security in the sky is to work on your motivation, why you are here, and what you want to do with paragliding, because it's the first thing. And then when with people who want to go a bit more with performance flying, most of the time I tell them, okay, the way is long, but it's a nice way. But always, most of the time, they want just to go quite fast in the progression, and that's not the right way to do. I, Even if with now I'm also training some young guys, and it's a bit different with them, but because they are in the structure with the Pole France and everything, so it's kind of different. But if it's people want to go to performances without any structure, it's more about make every step quite correctly, because we see a lot of people thinking that paragliding is quite easy finally, and after the discover how much it can be powerful in the air, and what I want to do with them is to avoid the moment that they are blocked by the mental fear or something like this. Of course, in the progression, there is always this kind of thing appearing, but I also saw a lot of people just having a bad experience at quitting from paragliding. So I don't want this.
Mm. Well, what's something, it doesn't have to be recent and it doesn't have to be in flying, but what's something that has come up along the way in your progression that has kind of blown your mind? Any kind of aha moment or any kind of, coming to Jesus, just holy cow, that was that was something I just something big that happened that has impacted either who you are or your flying for the better.
Mm. Um, yeah, it's an interesting question. I would say for sure it's when I entered my first World Cups for the flying side, because you discover a new world of possibilities, and there is a before and an after World Cup, because you think you start to enter the national com, so you think, okay, I'm not so bad, and you arrive in
Yeah.
the World Cup, and in every glide they are out gliding you or out thermaling you or everything. So then you have to work quite hard to reach this level. So for sure it's kind of it was a very strong feeling to learn from the best, because I have I think I thought about the super final. My first super final in Colombia was very nice experience, and there was Chrigel, there was uh, um, Donini, and all the legend like this, and I was thinking, okay, I have a lot of work, and yeah, it was interesting. I was only like 20, and it was very, I have a really good memory of this.
Was that 2000? See, it was the 2012 year. So was that
Yeah, I think so.
2013?
Yeah,
I think. Yeah,
It
Russ got second, I believe. Right?
yeah, I think
That was
Russ
that
was,
was the fire flying.
yeah, this one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that was
think,
my first. That was
yeah.
my first super final. I'd only done one World Cup before then, but yeah,
Mhm.
that was very humbling. I could
Yeah,
stay with the guys one thermal and then bye bye. I
yeah,
was a very new pilot. It was very humbling. Very good
yeah,
flying.
it was very, very nice. So, yeah, it was very good experience for sure.
Yeah, great. Oh, fantastic. Maxime, the listeners, I'll have to piece this back together because I don't think the listeners, I mean, a lot of people watch the race, of course, but this is something that was quite, I went back and pieced together Avery files for the 2019 race to watch Chrigel and see, because during the race you can't see much what's going on
Hmm.
with the others other than they're ahead of you or they're behind you. You had a really interesting day 3. You caught Chrigel. He made a bit of a mistake going into
Hmm.
Lermoos. You caught him. You guys hiked up together to the launch.
Hmm.
It was kind of blowing up. I was back kind of crossing the Inn Valley at that moment, and there was big cells your way.
Yeah,
So I think this is one of the things that the viewer can't see in the live
yeah,
tracking. They
yeah,
don't see the weather that we're dealing with. But you guys had an interesting. You both took off together. You were thermaling together. You were flying together, and suddenly, just going before rounding the bend and going up I call it the Landeck Valley because Landeck is
hmm,
there. I don't know what that
hmm,
valley is actually called, but Kriegel just slope landed really quick and you kept going.
yeah,
And in my mind, what you did was the more logical choice because the
yeah,
valley winds would have been going up the Landeck Valley. It was late in the
hmm,
day. You would have gotten a nice push, but he landed, walked up very short distance and he ended up getting, I didn't look at it exactly, but 5 or 10K on you. What
Yeah.
did he do there? That was what happened there?
Yeah, it was one of the highlights of the race for me. What happened is I outclimbed him in the over the takeoff. I was like maybe 200 meters above him, and it was my decision was to go as fast as possible in the in valley, because in the Landeck Valley, because the sail was coming from the west, if I remember, and it was also the wind was blowing quite hard, like maybe 25, 30K, and I didn't think about even I didn't even think to land, because for me it was like a very very tricky situation where you have to, and also it was late, so there was also the deadline, and for me landing was not an option, and I decided to go in the kind of glide mode, and after I was thermaling on the lee side in very strange things, but it was working. And after, when I realized it top land, and just after went in soaring mode before entering the Landeck Valley, I think, okay, it was a very good move, but it was very bold for sure. And for me it was like I don't even think about it. It's and after I was walking and I saw him just passing over me, and he landed maybe like 5 minutes before the front came in, and it was like if 5-10 minutes after it, and maybe it wasn't working. So sometimes you need this kind of decision. It was a very good decision, but it was so bold. And still I was thinking about it. I'm still thinking about it. What I could have done better, and probably I would have done the same. So yeah, just different planning, and it was working for him for sure.
Yeah, he talks about this. He talks about gambling, and
Yeah.
if you gamble 8 out of 10 times as opposed to 3 out of 4, even if you don't get the 8 out of 10, you're going to win. So just gamble a lot, and not with risk. He's not talking about safety and risk. He's talking about those kinds of moves. And it was just interesting on the Avery. I couldn't, again, not seeing the weather, I couldn't make sense of it. What you did seemed to make the most sense, and it was just, he does these moves over and over and over again, and it's fascinating. And so the next one I wanted to ask you about is the next day he won the race in my mind.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
So you were both together in the Landeck Valley, and you walked a bit that morning, west towards Davos, and then you both started going up your own ridges. Again, he was 5 or 10K ahead of you. I don't have this exact, but he took off. Well, you were both at basically the same height. You had clearly both stopped to get ready to fly. He took off a long time before you did, and he scraped around very slowly. He didn't make much, but by the time you flew, he had a good jump on you. And I'm wondering, again, what was it just you just weren't feeling it? It wasn't on. It wasn't. You just thought it was too risky.
No, because we were late on takeoff, and the takeoff was really bad. We just found a really bad takeoff, and
okay.
And we were a bit late, and the place we were heading was quite bad actually. He was on the right place, on the right takeoff, just maybe 7 or 8K in front, and I wasn't ready when the condition kicked off.
Okay.
Finally, he landed on the way to Davos, so it allows me to take back maybe 20 minutes, maybe 20 to 30 minutes. And in the end, I think what I was looking last time, it was like 45 minutes behind him in Davos. So for sure he's in the right timing, and this one we had to push quite a lot in the morning on the flat and then head to the takeoff. But for sure, it was really messy on this takeoff. No really good place to take off, and this one was quite tricky.
This is the thing that the live tracking and the Google Earth just doesn't give you. I knew there had to be some reason. I thought Maxime's right there. You can practically see him.
Yeah, for
Why
sure.
isn't he in the air too? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I was so pissed off because we were like walking in the fucking little trees, like maybe 1 meter high, but we couldn't find any like good spot to take off, and it was like this during until 10:30, and he was in the air like 9:50 or just before 10.
Yeah,
and I was so pissed off. Yeah.
I bet. I've had plenty of those. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Maxime, last question, and this is potentially a really hard one or maybe a really easy one. I don't know, but it's very general. Why do you fly?
Because I don't find any other excitement like this elsewhere. So for me, it's the best feeling in the world. Like you can't find anything good as this. So I'm flying for this because every time I'm in the air, it's kind of the best thing in the world. And then I'm also like very interesting in the performance process, and I want to know what I can achieve and how I can achieve it, and it's a very good drive. Yeah.
Maxime, it's a treasure, man. I can't wait to see you in Austria. I hope this thing is a go. I've certainly had my doubts, but it seems like things are moving in the right direction. And so I can't wait to see you and race with you and enjoy the Alps for a couple weeks. It's a special treat to be able to go do this. I'm very, very grateful. So thanks a lot, and thanks for sharing all this with us, and best of luck with the remainder of your training. Stay healthy, and we'll see you in a bit.
Yeah, thanks, Gavin, for the interview. Yeah, we should see each other in Wagrain. See you.
Wagrain. See you soon.
Yeah, see you. Thanks.
If you find the Cloud-Based Mayhem valuable, you can support it in a lot of different ways. You can give us a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, or however you get your podcast. That goes a long ways and helps spread the word. You can blog about it on your own website or share it on social media. You can talk about it on the way up to launch with your pilot friends. I know a lot of interesting conversations have happened that way. And of course, you can support us financially. This show does take a lot of time, a lot of editing, a lot of storage and music and all kinds of behind the scenes cost. So if you can support us financially, all we've ever asked for is $1 a show. And you can do that through a one-time donation through PayPal, or you can set up a subscription service that charges you for each show that comes out. We put a new show out every 2 weeks. So for example, if you did $1 a show and every 2 weeks, it'd be about $25 a year. So way cheaper than a magazine subscription, and it makes all of this possible. I do not want to fund this show with advertising or sponsors. We get asked about that pretty frequently, but for a whole bunch of different reasons, which I've said many times on the show, I don't want to do that. I don't like having that stuff at the front of the show. And I also want you to know that these are authentic conversations with real people, and these are just our opinions, but our opinions are not being skewed by sponsors or advertising dollars. I think that's a pretty toxic business model. So I hope you dig that. You can support us. If you go to cloudbasedmayhem.com, you can find the places to support. You can do it through patreon.com/cloudbasedmayhem. If you want a recurring subscription, you can also do that directly through the website. We've tried to make it really easy, and that will give you access to all the bonus material, little video casts that we do and extra little nuggets that we find in conversations that don't make it into the main show, but we feel like you should hear. We don't put any of that behind a paywall. If you can't afford to support us, then just let me know and I'll set you up with an account. Of course, that'll be lifetime, and hopefully you're being in a position someday to be able to support us. But you'll find all that on the website. All of you who have supported us or even joined our newsletter or bought Cloud-Based Mayhem merchandise, t-shirts or hats or anything, you should be all set up. You should have an account, and you should be able to access all that bonus material now. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate your support, and we'll see you on the next show. Thank you.